This evening, first up, a 23-year-old Cuban man steps outside a Georgetown bar just before sunrise and is shot in the neck in front of CCTV cameras. The shooter calmly walks to a white car and drives away. A woman is now in custody, and the footage tells a chilling story. Then, severe weather is bearing down on Guyana. 5 days of heavy rain, coastal flooding, and deteriorating conditions expected to peak later this week. All regions are in the crosshairs, and the Civil Defense Commission says prepare now, not later. Plus, Canada, one of Ghana's oldest partners, missed every single expression of interest for the country's second major power plant, and President Ali flew to Toronto to say so directly to a room full of Canadian investors. The message was clear: get in or get left behind. Meanwhile, where has Vice President VP Jagdeo been? He answers that question himself, revealing what has been keeping him busy behind the scenes: 40,000 homes, 12,000 contractor applications, and the battle against the Dutch disease. And President Trump turns his attention to Latin America, putting pressure on leaders across the region to fall in line with Washington. Drug enforcement, governance, and the threat of direct intervention, a new power play in the Western Hemisphere. Stay tuned, those stories and more coming up. Stay with us. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for May 11th, 2026. I'm Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, President Dr. Mohamed Fanali tells Canada Ghana's booming economy is open for business. Ghana's president delivered a frank and pointed message to Canadian investors and policymakers on Friday. Ghana's economy is booming, the opportunities are real, and Canada must not be left behind. Speaking at the Ghana-Canada Business Forum, President Ali noted that while Canada was once Ghana's largest trading partner and a historic supporter of the country's democratic and institutional development, it has not kept pace with the scale of opportunities emerging from Ghana's rapidly transforming economy. The president noted that despite Canada's world-renowned expertise in hydroelectricity and energy systems, not a single Canadian firm responded to expressions of interest for Ghana's second major power plant project.
But when you look at the power of Canada in hydroelectricity, in grid transformation, development of smart grids, development of transmission, you have enormous experience. You have tremendous liquidity waiting to be deployed, yet in all of the expression of interest, you can't find one Canadian firm.
President Ali identified multiple sectors ripe for Canadian investment, including smart grids, transmission systems, pharmaceutical manufacturing, agro-processing, tourism, and data centers.
Look at our pharmaceutical industry. We have been promoting investment in pharmaceutical manufacturing and partnership around the world. Today we have interest from the European Union, major interest from the Middle East. Here again, Canada is no ordinary player in this space.
The president stressed that Ghana is not seeking one-sided relationships, but rather balanced partnerships that include local private sector participation and technology transfer.
We want our local private sector to be part of innovative opportunities. We want the local private sector to be involved in every aspect of economic expansion. And we want our local private sector to grow, own things, be profitable, and make money. And that's the philosophy of the government.
Underlining the country's economic momentum, the president disclosed that foreign direct investment has surged to approximately 35% of GDP, a figure he describes as a testament to global confidence in Ghana's political stability and economic direction. The president told the gathering that there are opportunities across all industries, adding, "You have to come down to be part of the ecosystem we are building." On a different note, Guyanese residents are being urged to take immediate precautions as the Civil Defense Commission and the Hydrometeorological Service issued a severe weather advisory warning of prolonged rainfall and significant flooding risk across the country from today, Monday, May 11th, through Friday, May 15th. While rainfall is expected to persist through Wednesday, May 13th, authorities have warned that conditions will deteriorate further on May 14th and 15th, with a more significant increase in rainfall anticipated. Forecast models indicate that all regions of Guyana are likely to be impacted during these 5 days. Regions 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 have been identified as high-risk areas with expected impacts including coastal flooding, drainage overflow, and inundated roads, agricultural flooding that threatens crops and livestock, riverine flooding with possible community isolation, and transportation delays affecting airstrips and trails. Saturated soils also increase the risk of mudslides in hilly areas, while strong winds and lightning may accompany thunderstorms. Authorities are urging residents to avoid flood-prone areas, exercise caution while driving or walking in areas with pooling water, keep drains and waterways clear, secure important documents and valuables, prepare sandbags, and raise furniture in lower flat dwellings. The Civil Defense Commission is encouraging the public to closely monitor official updates and report any instances of flooding or rising water levels. With conditions expected to peak later this week, precautions today could make all the difference. Moving on, a quiet Sunday morning on Foreshore Street, Queenstown, Georgetown, turned deadly just before dawn when a 23-year-old Cuban man was shot in the neck and killed outside a Georgetown bar, while the entire incident was captured on CCTV footage. DNR Vegas Infante, a Cuban national of Alexander Village who worked as a janitor at the bar, stepped outside around 5:40 a.m. on Sunday, where he encountered 4 men who had arrived at the location and were conversing with 2 other men seated outside. According to preliminary police investigations, Infante approached the group, at which point one of the men pulled out a handgun and shot him in the neck. CCTV footage captured Infante collapsing to the ground, bleeding from the wound, as his shooter calmly entered a white vehicle and fled the scene. The remaining men escaped in separate vehicles. Crime scene investigators combed the area for evidence, and Infante's body was subsequently removed and taken to the Memorial Gardens Funeral Home. The CCTV footage proved critical in advancing the investigation. Police traced the getaway vehicle, which led them to a 45-year-old woman of Little Diamond, East Bank, Demerara, who has since been arrested. The white vehicle was seized and remained in police custody. Infante was just 23 years old. Investigations are ongoing, and police have not yet disclosed the motive behind the killing or whether additional arrests are expected. Stick around when we return. Too many lives are being quietly destroyed by drugs, and Vice President Jagdeo breaks silence, says focus has been shifted from campaigning to delivering results.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Vice President Dr. Jagdeo has dismissed rumors surrounding his reduced public appearances, explaining that his focus has shifted from election campaigning to government planning and implementation following the PPP's election victory. Speaking during a ministerial outreach at the Arthur Chung Conference Center, Jagdeo said that his lower public profile was intentional and tied to his challenging responsibilities within government.
My role changed from General Secretary of the party and shifting from campaign
to planning. We have to build 40,000 homes to get a lot of issues addressed, to keep the economy going and not to suffer from the Dutch disease require a lot of planning. And people don't understand that sometimes. When you're not in the public domain, you're working, but working on things of a different nature. Not going out meeting people every day. That was in the campaign period. Now I felt that we have a lot of things in train and back in the public domain addressing the implementation of some of these issues.
Jagdeo said he has since been heavily involved in planning initiatives such as the construction of 40,000 homes and measures aimed at protecting Ghana's economy from the effects of the Dutch disease, often linked to rapid oil wealth expansion. The vice president also addressed the government's small contractors program, revealing that nearly 12,000 applications were submitted for contracts valued at $15 million and below. However, he noted that the verification process uncovered irregularities, including multiple companies being registered by family members and attempts by larger contractors to access the program. Dr. Jagdeo confirmed that he will soon resume more frequent press conferences and public engagements as the government moves deeper into implementing its development agenda. In other news, a major intelligence-led operation in Curviton, Berbice, has resulted in one of the more significant drug busts in recent months, with authorities seizing over 100 pounds of cocaine, a Uzi firearm, and ammunition at a premises in the border town on Friday. The Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit confirmed that two men, Ravendra Sanakumar and Amrish Kumar Mathura, were arrested at the location and are expected to face drug trafficking and related charges. The cocaine was discovered packed in 40 brick-like parcels, with preliminary tests confirming the substance. The Uzi firearm and ammunition were recovered at the same premises. Kanu valued the seized cocaine at over $50 million on the local market, a figure that climbed significantly higher on the European market, where investigators believe the shipment was ultimately destined. The presence of an automatic firearm at the location suggests the operation was not only large in scale, but well protected. The agency said the bust underscores its continued commitment to disrupting transnational narcotics trafficking networks, intercepting drug shipments before they reach international markets, and removing illegal weapons from Guyanese communities. As Ghana's borders grow busier with the expansion of trade and commerce driven by the oil boom, the country's attractiveness as a drug transshipment point increases. Friday's seizure is a reminder that the battle to keep those corridors clean requires consistent vigilance, and that the cost of failure is measured not just in dollars, but in lives. Moving on, the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit is taking the fight against drug abuse off the streets and into homes, schools, and communities, with the launch of a landmark 12-booklet educational series designed to inform citizens of all ages about the real and lasting dangers of substance abuse. The Truths About Drugs series, launched last week, covers a wide range of substances, including alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, vaping, pills, new psychoactive substances, and drug trafficking. Written to be accessible and reader-friendly, the booklets are tailored for different audiences. 3 are specifically designed for children ages 8 to 13. At the same time, the other 3 provides detailed guidance for parents and teachers. Kanu director James Singh described the series as more than just educational material, calling it a wake-up call for a society where drug and alcohol abuse often hides behind social acceptance, while quietly devastating families, health, and future generations. Singh said the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit believes prevention is as powerful as enforcement. He added that stopping the spread of addiction begins with truth. Each booklet carries a message from the director, outlining short and long-term risks associated with various substances, examines the wider social impact of addiction, and points readers towards available support services and resources. The initiative forms part of the government's broader drug awareness campaign, aimed at keeping citizens informed and empowered to protect themselves and their communities. The booklets are available for free download at kanu.gov.gh. GY. Don't go away after the break. Putin's muted victory parade signals growing war pressure, and evacuations begin for passengers on hantavirus hit MV Honduras cruise ship off Tenerife.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for do a surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, lot 238 South Road border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world.
Good evening, I'm Dominic Gittins. Tonight, over 1,600 killed in Haiti in just 3 months as gang violence spirals. Trump turns up the heat on Latin America. A hantavirus-struck cruise ship is evacuated in the Canary Islands. And Putin preside over a scaled-down Victory Day parade in Moscow. We will begin in Haiti. At least 1,642 people have been killed and 745 injured in Haiti during the first quarter of 2026, according to the United Nations. Gang violence, kidnappings, and sexual abuse remain widespread, extending beyond Port-au-Prince into other regions. Security force operations accounted for nearly 69% of the casualties. The UN urged accelerated judicial reforms and increased international efforts to combat illegal arms trafficking into Haiti. As the US and Iran try to reach a peace deal, Donald Trump is heating up the rhetoric a little closer to home. After decades, Latin America is once again at the forefront of the US agenda.
From Mexico to Argentina, Donald Trump is reshaping Latin America with a strategy that includes pressure, military intervention, and political alignment. The approach echoes what Donald Trump himself referred to as a new version of the Monroe Doctrine, sometimes referred as the Donroe Doctrine, which is a vision of Latin America firmly under U.S. influence. But across the region, the push raises familiar questions about democracy, sovereignty, and whether the United States has returned to an era of open intervention in its own backyard.
It was the first clear sign that Donald Trump was taking Latin America seriously, not just rhetorically, but militarily. The capture of Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro was a turning point, signaling a return to direct U.S. intervention in the region.
Clear under our new doctrine, and it is a doctrine. We will not allow hostile foreign influence to gain a foothold in this hemisphere.
The Trump administration wants to keep China and Russia away from the U.S. sphere of influence, and also take advantage of the region's vast natural resources like oil, gas, agriculture, and mining. Former Ambassador Diego Aguilar says the U.S. message to Latin America is clear.
The Monroe Doctrine of 1823, that was an indirect approach. It says, now you remain out of the region. Now the message is to us. You belong to us.
In Cuba, pressure is mounting. The U.S. has tightened its grip through energy restrictions and diplomatic threats. Colombia is caught in the middle, balancing cooperation with Washington on drug trafficking while resisting U.S. pressure and threats of intervention. And the Caribbean is no longer just a transit zone. It's become a front line for the so-called war on drugs. Luis Moreno Campo is a former prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. He says the new U.S. approach raises concerns about the rule of law.
Trump is transforming a just operation into a killing operation, into a war operation, allowing him to kill people. This is not a war. They are not, again, drug dealers are criminals. They are not conducting hostilities against the US. So you cannot use the war frame for them. This is a crime against humanity, which is a widespread systematic attack against civilian population.
In Argentina, the relationship between Donald Trump and Javier Milei has emerged as one of the most important political alignments in the Americas. Relationships in the region are now being defined by alignment with the US. Support brings benefits. Resistance brings pressure, isolation, and risk.
Donald Trump is pushing a hardline agenda on migration, trade, and security, all issues that impact directly Mexico, where President Claudia Sheinbaum is facing growing pressure from the Trump administration, including calls to send American soldiers to fight the Mexican cartels. We go to Julia Galeano in Sinaloa, a state long at the center of Mexico's security challenges.
A Spanish-led evacuation is underway in the Canary Islands to remove around 140 passengers and crew from a cruise ship struck by a hantavirus outbreak. Al Jazeera's Jonah Hall reports.
Its journey finally at an end, the MV Hondius was met by Spain's civil guard in the waters off Tenerife. In the port of Granadilla de Abona, passengers, now barely recognisable as the pleasure cruisers they once were, disembarked in small groups and were escorted ashore. Protective wear mandatory. For all the reassurances from the World Health Organization that hantavirus is not easily spread, the risk to public health therefore low, no one is taking any chances. After all, some among their number are dead. On the tarmac, a waiting plane, and protective measures grow more urgent. The passengers change into white hazmat suits, their personal belongings clutched in sanitized bags, and they're doused in disinfectant before boarding. Support staff in orange wear breathing equipment. These are Spanish nationals, the first group to depart for the mainland. Others, said the Spanish health minister, would follow throughout the day.
The next flight will be to the Netherlands, which will be taking citizens from Germany, Belgium, Greece, and some of the crew. Then various flights scheduled for today will follow. Canada, Turkey, France, Great Britain, Ireland, and the United States will disembark as their scheduled flights arrive.
At hand to personally monitor the repatriation process was the WHO's Director General, once the face of World Health updates during the COVID-19 pandemic. This, he stressed again, is not a repeat.
This is not another COVID. And the risk to the public is low. So they shouldn't be scared and they shouldn't panic.
It is a process that will continue into Monday as passengers and crew are delivered home and into periods of isolation. An Antarctic cruise that began in Argentina more than 2 months ago has crossed the Atlantic on a wave of international alarm and distress, and it's still unfolding. These were British paratroop medics on Sunday dropping onto the remote island of Tristan da Cunha, where one passenger who left the Hondius in April is now being treated for hantavirus. Others are in hospitals in South Africa and the Netherlands, with fears of a wider outbreak being carefully managed. Jonah Hull, Al Jazeera.
Russia's annual Victory Day celebration in Moscow looked drastically different this year, as President Vladimir Putin presided over a scaled-down military parade amid growing security concerns linked to the war in Ukraine. Al Jazeera's Yulia Vyapovalova reports.
A modest victory parade with a handful of foreign guests by Vladimir Putin's side. In contrast to the elaborate Victory Day celebrations Russia used to have before its war with Ukraine. Military equipment was not rolling on Red Square either, probably out of fear that it could be targeted by Ukrainian drones. Instead, there was a video showing some of the new military equipment and weapons being used on Ukrainian fronts. The Russian Ministry of Defense threatened to launch what it called a massive retaliatory missile strike on the center of Kiev in case of a drone attack during the parade. President Putin once again compared the war in Ukraine to the Second World War.
The great feat of the generation of World War II victors inspires the fighters of the special military operation. They are resisting an aggressive force supported by the entire NATO bloc, and despite that, they are moving forward.
North Korean troops who helped the Russians retake their Kursk region after Ukraine's invasion in 2024 also marched in Red Square. On the eve of the parade, it became known that Kiev and Moscow had agreed to a temporary 3-day ceasefire mediated by US President Donald Trump. In addition, the parties also agreed to exchange prisoners. But it wasn't just the military hardware display that was cancelled.
Victory Park in Moscow is a popular area with Russians celebrating Victory Day. Every year it becomes a venue for hundreds of concerts and memorial events to commemorate the day. But this year, for the first time, despite thousands of people showing up with their families, all the events, as well as the traditional fireworks at the end of the day, have been cancelled for security reasons.
But some of the park's visitors we spoke to don't seem to share that concern.
There
are no worries at all. It's a sacred day, a day of remembrance for all those fallen. That is why we are here.
You can see the people who protect us. The center of Moscow is totally safe.
This is the day of sorrow and the day of pride for our country, for our ancestors who were able to defeat the Nazis. All the measures taken are for our safety.
81 years have passed since World War II, considered in Russia the most devastating conflict in its history. Many of those who fought are gone now. But the country is involved in a new bloody conflict with its neighbour, which after more than 4 years shows no signs of ending. Yulia Shapovalova, Al Jazeera, Moscow.
Thanks, Dominique. This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3-day weather forecast. And that's CCTV2 Headline News for this Monday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You can tune in tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. for rebroadcasts and at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other.